COVID-19 active material that is scientific. The scientific people can have an explanation, but they hope to spread COVID to the Zimbabweans through whatever they are. Yes, we know that they have been given more than 300,000 US dollars to sustain the purported demonstration, but obviously they're being encouraged to break the law against COVID. Why this is being done, it is not because people are concerned about the ordinary people, but they are trying to bring a narrative first to see how the government is going to react to the demonstrators, and then obviously cry about disregard of human rights. But there is a competition here between the purported human rights and observance of the rule of law. At this stage now, the so-called human rights groups are encouraging the citizenry to break the law. And I think also Zimbabweans should know that the supporters or those that are funding this demonstration are worried about why COVID has not killed people in Zimbabwe. And from the information that we've got is that they are trying to, they think that there's going to be firing of tear gases. And we are reliably informed that they also have some canisters containing COVID-19 active material that is scientific. The scientific people can have an explanation, but they hope to spread COVID to the Zimbabweans through whatever they are going to have. But we are reliably informed that they've got a mechanism of spreading corona, which has been brought in by those that are funding this. So maybe what is important is to tell the Zimbabweans that it is up to their safety this time around. They are being used as pig, pig in what do you call it? When someone is being tested upon to see how effective an experiment can be done. Is it? So this is what they are trying to do. They are trying to use Zimbabweans to infect them with the coronavirus and then blame the government for not being proactive, because they are disappointed that what they had anticipated about the effects and the impact of corona is not what they've seen in Zimbabwe. So our weight to the Zimbabweans is that it is about their safety, it is about their health. Those that will be encouraged to go for the demonstrations, they are going to be used for that. And obviously, the law is there to be observed. They are law enforcement agents, and we know that Zimbabweans are innocent. We know there is funding, like I've said, there is up to 300,000 that has been given by some certain embassy, which is bent on trying to cause regime change, but also to spread corona in Zimbabwe. But we are first going to make sure we protect our people and we make sure that there is observance of the rule of law.
As the Revolutionary Party, we are aware that this demonstration is coming, and it is almost near by the end of this month. What have you put in place or what message do you give to the ordinary citizens in order to curb the further spread of this COVID-19?
The message is clear that people should not participate because they are about to be used first so that they get contaminated, they are infected with the coronavirus. Second, that they disrupt the minimal production activities that are going on, and also that they portray that obviously they want to be used so that when they are repelled by the security agents, then an impression that there is no observance of human rights is given for some, agenda of obviously the funders of this. But for what we are doing as the days approach, well, the security mechanism is always active, and systems are in place. It's not like it's the first time this has happened. Obviously, the comrades responsible for security can answer better, but the general knowledge is that lawlessness is not going to be tolerated, and everything possible to make sure that there is protection of human life, protection of property, and so forth is going to be put in place.
The president, first secretary of the Revolutionary Party, Comrade Nandagwa, has been calling for productivity in all his addresses. In your view, do these demonstrations in any way speak into the countries being productive?
No. In fact, those that are behind the demonstration, even the MDC in its intensive care unit is saying that they are going to support that, but we know obviously they've been active at even the planning stage. They are so disappointed that government has concentrated on production and productivity. And for us, as Zanu PF, we have said we are not going to have a meeting for the sake of having a meeting. We are going to make sure that we mobilize around production, productivity. And this is what we are doing. And every government effort is, for example, you look this time around with the Fumvudza and many development-oriented programs are in place. And this is how we can sustain this economy. I have just come from a meeting with the Reserve Bank governor, where we were talking about the payment system of cotton farmers, because it seemed there was going to be a problem because of the closing of the merchant, but they've put in place a program that empowers the farmer, because they are saying instead of a farmer owning only a line, they are now going to open bank accounts that are going to be linked to the phone or to the phone number, so that when, for example, the bank or any other institution wants to empower the farmer, they can, if it is a loan, put it in their account as opposed to put that in a telephone line. And I think that this is an ongoing of empowerment efforts to support production. So everything that we are doing as a government, as ZANU-PF, is production oriented. But obviously this disappoints the opposition that thinks that they can only get in power when they starve the people, and they are happy if there is no production. They know that for the past 3 months, there was no production going on. And now that we've started, opened up some industries and so forth, they now want to destabilize that. But I think the generality of our people are now wiser. They know what it means to them. They've been crying, everyone has been crying, saying they want to go back to work. And you cannot demand to go back to work for the purpose of causing a demonstration. No. So it means our people are geared for production, and this is a great disappointment to the people that do not want to see this country getting out of its economic problems, of course caused by sanctions and the droughts, and of course other disasters like the cyclone and so forth, Cyclone Idai. Some people would wish that if the misfortunes would continue to strike Zimbabwe, I don't know for what reason, but if anyone entertains a hope of ever getting into power, they want to lead, help people that have got enough food, and this is what ZANU-PF is doing. But of course, being opposed by the opposition.
Yeah, also we have witnessed the lack of participation by those who plan these demonstrations. Instead, they just send innocent citizens in front and they operate from behind. What's your advantage?
Well, I want our people to understand that the formation of ZANU-PF was not for the purpose of enriching the leadership or anyone. It was after the realization of the exclusion, the alienation of our people from every economic activity and the rights. So, trying now to restore dignity to the Zimbabwean, indigenous Zimbabwean people, there was a formation of political parties, and ZANU-PF sustained the problems, the banning, the everything that went along with the oppressive laws of the Smith regime. So, the formation of a political party, if it is not based in the value system of the indigenous people, then the ideas of the political party cannot be sustained. If people are going to form a political party, what in what we think, or what we can refer to as entrepreneurial politics, where people form political parties for the sake of having money, they form organizations because they found a donor, then that party is never going to be connected to the people, and it cannot be sustained. We will talk, if you want, about the Malawi experience, what it means to the value system of the African people. And because these people are in politics for making money for themselves, they see these demonstrations as part of a work package. And we are at work at the moment, but we have not brought our children, because our children have got no business coming to work. And when they assign people to go for demonstrations, for them, there must be a payment, and that is work. So they know the hazards that are in a workplace. You have to be prepared, for example, to get into a mine shaft, because it can collapse, and no one wants their children to get collapsed on. And this is what they are doing. They use other people's children for their self-aggrandizement. They get money out of it. This is why you see, after every demonstration, you hear there have been disagreements on the payment. At the moment, you know they've been promised the 20 US. But you hear that most of the people that might participate did not get that money, because that pace should feed the political architects, who are the so-called opposition. They are movements, they are not political parties. A movement is a gathering of people that might meet from divergent views. They don't have anything in common, and they don't have an ideology that they follow. What they have are immediate needs. They find people, obviously, with the current economic situation caused by them, people are disgruntled, they capitalize on them, use them, but if it means even being arrested, those people are arrested and then they make noise. They benefit from that, they are paid for, obviously, we know there are governments that are bent on trying to cause regime change. And one may want to know why some countries want to see Zanu-PF getting out of power. The answer is simple. They enjoyed the economic advantage of this country from the time of colonization up to the day of independence. And Zanu-PF government has restored African human dignity, have brought African human rights, have made the African man and woman be counted, which was not allowed by the former colonizers. And for that reason, the former colonial power and their friends, their allies, will always want to see any political part of liberation. It's not only Zanu-PF, of course, Zanu-PF, they are gear up. But if you look in the SADC region and elsewhere, every part of the liberation is under attack. It is because they have taken the economic advantage that was on the colonial power and gave it to the indigenous people. They always blame the government. For example, they will never credit the Zanu-PF government for giving land to the people. They will never credit the Zanu-PF government for empowering people in the mining sector. They will never, agree with the Zanu-PF on the emancipation and empowerment of women, who they did not even include in their census system. Our women were not being counted. But realizing their contribution even during the time of the liberation process of this country, ZANU-PF respects the role of women. And we are talking about Matemadanda, for example, an iconic heroine who started, initiated, and inspired the revolutionary process of this country. She's a woman. And for that reason, we think women are equal to men. And of course, coming from a disadvantaged group, because for many years they have not been regarded as equal human beings. There is government effort and initiative to try and empower those women. But unfortunately, some do not see it that way. They even can abuse those rights, which they are being given by the revolutionary process that is brought by ZANU-PF.
On that note of Matemadanda is the champion of the revolution of this country, Nelson Chamisa has recently attacked Matemadanda. What's your take on that?
It's not the first time he has done that. He has denigrated the Zimbabwe bird. He has denigrated the process of the liberation of this country. He has gone a step further and denigrated Matemadanda, the spiritual godfather of this, godmother of this revolution. True to her words, Mapfupa angu achamoka, Mapfupa akamoka. Unfortunately, there is one thing that people might not know. Chamisa's father was in the 1 RAR battalion. 1 RAR meaning 1 Rhodesian African Rifles. He's a person who grew up in an army cantonment area, but an army on the side of the Rhodesian regime. And his value system, because of that, is naturally against the revolution, the liberation of this country. But if he thinks I'm lying, he has got every right to challenge this. I know he's a son of an African, Rhodesian African rifleman who fought against the liberation process of this country. And his value system now favors the former colonizers. And for him to disregard the physical and the spiritual effort from Matemadanda and the recognition that every one of us, despite the fact that they might be in the opposition or what, our people in Zimbabwe respect the spiritual world, especially as regards the process of the liberation of this country. And for him to denigrate that obviously is a cause of a case. Obviously. You can rule him out of anything near power because of that. Very irresponsible, but not only irresponsible, very ignorant, very misguided, very anti-Zimbabwe, anti-our culture, anti-our being. We are not children of some prophets anyway. We believe, yes, in the spiritual and prophetic world, but our genesis come from the African value of the spiritual world, where we are inspired by our being, Ubuntu, Abantu. We are different, very different from some other races, where a young boy, John Rhodes, can come at 15 to Zimbabwe and die here without even one of his relatives coming to visit him. No. For an African child, if you go out there, you are going one day to dream your ancestors saying, go back to your people. Because we are people. And if Chamisa wants to ignore that for the maybe, trying to police the former colonial powers, it is unfortunate for him and maybe his offsprings. Nemake kuti Mwari anotaura kuti dzimwe nguva anorova vana kurovera mhosva dzakapariwa nevabereki. So I don't know where he gets this desperation, and I don't know where those people that support him get this strength of supporting a wayward, a loose person in terms of the morality of our Africanness. I cannot go and say, iwewe mdzime kwenye ina basi. I cannot blame your spiritual background. It's taboo. Let alone attacking mepo yakabetsera kusunu yakatungamirira chimurenga chekusunungura nyika ino and entertain the hope of ever ruling this country. Let me tell you, mepo dzenyika ino ukaona uchita manyongori ari kuita dzisingakupanichi unenge usati wasvika pagedzo. It's unheard of. And vakuru, after saying that he lost his mother, I'm not suggesting that it is connected to that, but they can try to find out why that happened. Kana ukatuka mai vakafira nyika ino yose unogona kurwadzisiwa nevako. But kana uri benzi, you want to say, hey, Mwari vanoti. No. Mwari vanotaurwa kuti Mwari waAbrahama, Mwari waIsaka, Mwari waJacob, Mwari wamutendi, Mwari whoever, because Mwari anoita baba veanonamata. Saka Mwari cannot fail to recognize the roles that are played by certain individuals, because the power, spiritual power, it is not the power that you can get pasina the real spiritual world. And if that spiritual world respected the role of Ambianyanda, why do I say respected? It is because everything that she guided us to say and do brought realism. It came into reality. So that means a prophet's word is always blessed by the Lord. Because God will not want the word of his prophet to be taken as a lie if that prophet is a true prophet. In the Bible, you have some prophets vakanga vakamirira bedzi to curse vanhu vanenge vasingaiti zvinoda Mwari. And kana kataura kuti uchaita rombe, waita rombe, Mwari achiratidza kuti zvataurwa nemunhu wake ndozvechokwadi. And that's the level yakanga inambuyana. Zvese zvavakataura kuti mapfupa angu achamuka. Unfortunately, Chamisa was in the opposition. But those that were not in the opposition saw that happening. So Spirit Yambiananda and others inspiring the process of liberation of this country, restoring human dignity, to the, also even extent of freeing Chamisa Nababa African Rhodesian Rifles, and also giving him the right to jump into MDC power because of the freedom that was brought not only by the spirit, by the death fest of Mbianyanda. She resisted to the point of being hanged. You cannot play around with such a person, and it's unfortunate that we have people who dream of leading this country coming from such a misguided background. I have no words, but it's unfortunate.
National Peace, you've mentioned the resilience is the cornerstone of during the liberation struggle, the former liberation movement parties during the struggle. Now, currently, what is sustaining these former liberation struggles, given that they are always on attack, and why are they being attacked by the Western imperialists?
Okay. I'll take from the first Chimrenga. Let me, for this, remove talk of Lobenula, talk of Vanachaminoka, Vanakaguvi, Vanachingaira, Vanambiane, and so forth. Those people died protecting the African being, refusing to be dominated by intruders. That is the first African value. The wish and right to self-determination. They resist the incoming of the colonizers because they believed in King Lobenula Vese, the first Chimrenga heroes. Their values were accomplished by the process of the second Chimrenga. So, how was Zanu PF formed, or Zanu? It was based on trying to restore African dignity, trying to finish the process of liberation, the process of resisting colonial domination that was started by our ancestors. So when our ancestors were defeated, there was what was known as the entrenchment of colonial power. First, the colonizers came to dominate Vakati Garamadunduru, Vaka govern everything without any law backing that. They then came to a process. Yavakaskapakuchi Gadzra Mutemo, ino protector what they had stolen from us. Vakagadzira my property rights and so forth. But they did not do that before taking the properties from us. And our leaders and ourselves came to realize that no, they killed a woman, for example, without, she had no gun, no knife, no what. But they killed her for the inspiration, for the leadership she provided people to resist colonial domination. And why? Because they wanted to take over our wealth and share amongst themselves. And this they did. And then after having done that, they then came to a stage of legalizing the wrong things that they had done. And now you get an argument, someone saying, you took the land without a law backing you. How do you do that? How do you do that? Karl Marx, Lenin will tell you that if you want to correct a wrong, you should exceed the limit. Uno exceed so that you're in a tendency of going back where it was. And the pilots are kind of piping straight. We could not take this land through the courts because there was a lot of investment then in the court system protecting what was illegally taken from us. And now, for example, one day when I was very young, my mother would ask, Maswera say Shumba, my father would say, Naskwa kuri right, Nangoka viwa kamuncheti ni mwana wa. But not because my father had no power, but he had to submit because that was the condition. That was what was in the eyes of the colonizer morally correct and morally correct. If you did not do that, you would be killed. And then that is the eternal now degradation of African humanity. The being of an African had been taken away, where the oldest man would always be referred to as a boy, a nun for my mother, and so forth. And Mwanomuru, no matter how small, beginning bas, he was or she was destined to be a leader of the African race. But after having realized that, then came the formation of a political party. So, if you want, the formation of ZAPU, the formation of Zanu was based on the process of trying to restore the Africanness, the African value, that which had been stolen by the colonizers from our ancestors, from our people, and restore that to the original African people. This is why you see, soon after independence, there was an enactment of many laws. First, restoring dignity to the women. A woman would not open a bank account. They would get witness from their firstborn son. Mana is later called because Mai was not regarded as a person. And this is the dignity that we restored to the African people. You could not do anything as a black person. This was restored. And that is the African or the liberation political parties were formed based on the values of those countries. This is why you see you had ZAPU, meaning Zimbabwe People Liberation Union, People's Union, Zanu, again People's Union, KANU, again People's Union, SWAPO, Southwest African People's Organization, again for the liberation and the restoration of human dignity. It is because it was not based on a tribe or a certain group of people. It was the totality of the people. The recognition first and acceptance that we had our rights taken away from us, and there was reason for the restoration of those rights. And these political parties were formed for the purpose of restoring. You go to Malawi, for example, I had some misguided opposition political parties saying, yeah, the opposition is winning. That's nonsense. The people of Malawi have gone to the party of their liberation. They have realized they cannot continue to be taken for granted by these fly-past political parties. And how do you see that? You look at UNIP, you look at ZANU-PF, you look at the Congress Party of Malawi, you look at KANU. They did not have 1 or 2 terms, many terms, because they connect with the African value system. Unlike these movements, they concentrate on enriching the leadership without a local agenda. They are formed by external powers to unseat a sitting people's government. When they achieve that, they have no further agenda. What do? They begin to fight for positions, because positions will be associated with power, and power with money. And the people realize that after all, these people are not after our interest. This is why you see, even where people had lost direction, like in Malawi, they are now reverting back to the party of liberation. Why? Because it still holds the African value system. It is the part that realized that our people were under oppression and liberated them. Yes, they could have made a mistake or two, but still that does not take the initial resolve to free the people, to empower, to capacitate the people, to make people self-determine, self-determination. So after having been used by these other fly-past political parties, they realize they must go back to their roots. And for that, we thank the Zimbabweans. They have been very conscious. Under very difficult conditions, they did not disassociate themselves from the party that liberated them, the party that is a custodian of the African value system, the party that gives dignity to the African people. It is ZANU-PF. And no other political party can claim that it is anywhere near the African value system. This is why you see in the opposition, they value, for example, to be connected to Trump. And we are not proud of that, because we know for close to 100 years, we were under oppression by Britain with the support of America. And America cannot wake up today and say they are now masters of human rights, masters of democracy, when they denied us the right to vote for close to 100 years, when they disregarded us from being humans for that length, and we had to die. Our people had to be killed, not for anything, but for the right to vote. This is why you see, after having almost defeated the enemy in the liberation war, ZANU and ZAPU agreed to go for an election, despite that they had no internal structure like the district, whatever, because they had fought for democracy, and we fought for democracy. We brought democracy, and this is why we agreed to go into an election that was managed by our former colonial power, Britain, and with the support of the Rhodesian state machinery. We agreed, because, and had we lost, we were going to accept the result. But fortunate for us, even without structures, we were the biggest structure and the biggest constituents that we had was Zimbabwe. Our people were connected to the revolution. Our people were connected to the liberation process. And therefore, they knew that they can only sustain this by voting ZANU-PF, which altogether got 77 votes out of 80. And that means that our people realize and recognize the role that had been played by the process of liberating, which every Zimbabwean those, of course, who were progressive participated in. It's not true to say all Zimbabweans participated. No, there were Zimbabweans who were at the side of the enemy, participating very actively, including some chiefs, including Commissar. Kana tichiti brakwacha. Vamwana forgot to know Purisa. No. Brakwacha means black watcher. An African who was assigned by the Rhodesian regime to watch other blacks. Kana pamba penyi pakasika ma comrades. Vanenge vane chiredio seri kwechu. Vomanyota roti ma comrades maganda ngauya pano apiwa chikafu pekwa nyingi vaitwa so. And kana mapolisa uye anotora vese including that person. Omboiswa wokambama muenda kustoks but iwe newe masapota magandanga ndimunono sara kuyodzokera because avadi vanga vasikati kumufumura ndo baba vakasikuereva. He was a black watcher. And when you see him turning against Zanu PF, it should not be an event. This is the inculcated culture in him. He comes to Zanu PF to disturb the process of liberation. No, after a short time, he wants to jump to power. You are a commissar. Pandribana. Urukutuda kumwe. Kupi. Asiko iko gondia nkoruda kwindi. And watuma nani. Mwana mbrakwacha. Baba wako wangu itabazara kutengeza mchibure. Istozi zibata kurega takupanjini. Wakuda kujambira futi kumusoro kuti unoita chibrakwacha chababa wako kumusoro. No. Iye zvinopane zvinofana zviri binda uka enda forma chakati ndaita chakati. Look at their past, look at their history. Tarisa kuti vana vanhu vakazvarwa nani uchaona kuti seri kwavo kune brakwacha. Saka baba vacho namai vacho zvavakamudzidzisa zviri anti this revolution. He cannot sustain the activities connected with the process of the revolution of the people. Vanobuda voenda, vorofoma zvinhu zvavo, enda foma yellow chap, ndafoma green chap, that's nonsense.
National PC, maybe your comment on the current chaos within the MDC structures.
Obviously, they were bound to fail. In January, I said that if Chamisa wants to remain relevant in politics, he must join other people in Poland. He mustn't think that he's the big player. No. I said people were going to desert him. But he has not seen enough. Let's go up to December. You will see. You will remain alone, pekeato, arega. Because you cannot continue to fool people all the time. No. People will begin to realize, could years, MDC has got quite a number of MPs in parliament, controls most of the urban councils because of the voting process. But because Chamisa himself lost, he decides until Nelson Chamisa died. How can you have such a person for a leader? You cannot have. And so the confusion was bound to come. Because, like I've said, it is not based, the organizations are not based on the African value system. They are not connected to the African values. Of course, they can have black people. They can have, yes, but do they have an element of African value? No. Kuwena chief has recorded that is the African value. What do you have for the Africans living and dead? What do you say about them? Are you going to despise and still believe that you protect, you respect the African value system? Are you connected to the suffering of our people? Are you connected to the process of liberation and the revolution? What do you say about it? Do you denigrate those that participated? If you do, you are not wrong. Because Jesu akataura kuti kana mukaona mutadzi achita mabasa aSatani, haasi kukanganisa because arushandira mwari wake anonzi Satan. So they are bound to fail because they have no connection whatsoever with the African value system. And for as long as they are that, and even as long as America support these people, they are doomed to fail, because there is African consciousness. We are not going to forget about the Soweto massacre. We are not going to forget about Nyanzonya massacre. We are not going to forget about Mkush and Mpungwe massacres in Zambia. We are not going to forget about the mass graves lying around this country in the process of liberating this country. We are not going to forget this. And this cannot be erased from the real African value system. We are always going to regard those that died in defense of African dignity as our heroes. And once you depart from that, why? Because you have gone out of the African value system. You don't know what is for us. You are worried about what is for them. And unfortunately, we cannot respect you for that. And this is what is happening in the opposition. They cannot sustain, because they are living on lies. How do you have a political party formed in Washington, D.C. for the purpose of championing African value system? You cannot, because you know America as the biggest slave master, the biggest beneficiary of slave trade. How can they change when their entrenchment, their entrenched system is based on racial segregation, on the superiority of a race against another race? You can't. And you cannot persuade Trump to regard you as an equal human being when he refuses to respect a person of color. He does not respect a person who rises to go to the level of a president, Obama. There is African black blood in him. And you think he can respect you. And the Tongos, yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.